yes, let us introduce ourselves.
Hello, new listeners and returning listeners. If you're either one or both, or just a random voice in the ether, hi, I'm Fennec Foxfire. I use she, they pronouns. You can find me at the Fennec Wolf on just about everything, and I do podcasting stuff with Pseudonym Social and Nerdsmith and a couple other things around the internet. So yeah, hope y'all are having a wonderful day, you beautiful souls.
Hello, it's Casey. I'm on several different Pseudonym Social podcasts, Tempest Multi Season 1.
And 2.
And 2.
2. Technically, I'm on that one too, yeah. And aboard the Opal Star, I also do some voice acting work with the Graveyard Tapes. So go check them out, because they're cool.
They are cool. And I'm Brianna. I'm in charge of most of these shenanigans, though some other people will occasionally take over shenanigans, and I'm still kind of in charge of those too. I specifically am going to be working on this show, of course, DM for Aboard the Opal Star and Tempest Multi, and I'm also a player, Victoria McGuire, for Season 1 of Beyond the Crumbling Veil. And since I don't know when Season 2 is coming out, but it will be coming out eventually, but we just haven't started recording it yet, I'll keep that character introduction to myself.
No spoilers. No cross-podcast spoilers.
Yeah, no spoilers.
We'll eventually figure out the pseudonym world and how it all connects, like the Whedonverse.
It's just a multiverse. There is a canon multiverse in Tempest Multi, so you don't know.
Let me have my conspiracy board.
We need a Pixar theory, but for our podcasts.
Yeah, because I'm like, technically nothing has happened that would eliminate any of these things from being connected. But a little fun context for this story that we are going to be doing is it technically all started in a Christmas one-shot that never saw the light of day because Craig bought ate most of the audio.
Yes.
Fuck you, Craig!
Yeah, Casey had a character with a bit of a backstory, and when years later she was still thinking about that character in that story, I offered to come up with some kind of campaign so we could explore it. And then we kidnapped Fennec into it. And because I am physically incapable of doing anything without probably overdoing it, we're going to be doing a full-on campaign of this. Because why not? I don't overthink things. What are you talking about? Stop looking at me like that.
The fact that you're projecting your guilt says a lot more.
This all came because I went way extra on a one-shot, so I'm not looking at you like anything, and I hope it's not the audience, because this is a visual medium, and if they were looking at you, that's a very strange thing to happen.
This is the wrong podcast for them to be looking at me through audio. That's my Beyond the Crumbling Veil shit. So, to set up a bit of the world, it is said that a war between the gods drove the people from their home, a revolt of sorts between the old and the new, those who created this world and some outside force seeking to control of it. No one knows for sure. Whatever the cause of the war, the truth has been lost to time. The impact on the world was undeniable, though. All the people who lived there were forced to flee to the edges of the continent, and that is where they hid, struggling to survive together until one day they realized that the war had stopped. And eventually, slowly, they left their hiding places and started returning back to the place that may once have been their home generations ago. And to fill in the time between then and where we are starting our story, we are playing the ground itself. Talking about a little bit about what the world looks like after the war is over. I feel like a lot of the landscape was changed by it, but I feel like most people don't remember what it used to look like before then.
I'd agree, like, valleys now have huge canyons and mountains where there were none, and mountainous places are now completely flat or beaches.
Yeah, so it's changed a lot, but I feel like there's still some life here. we haven't had any sort of sentient life aside from animal life, which is still there, but the world is beginning to heal because I feel like people also waited a really long time to be sure that there was no more war going on before they even thought about starting to slowly return back to where they came from. Or where they heard that they came from, because it was generations in hiding.
There is no more war in... I don't know what we're calling this world.
Yeah, we still need to come up with the name for this world. We have a name for the town where this full story itself will be starting, but...
I mean, we could try and pull a Thetis on people.
I like it.
I'm still mad about that. The name for the Dragon Age world, it just stands for the Dragon Age system. I saw that and I was like, excuse me?
I mean, it would work though, because Trafos.
Trafos?
Trafos? Yeah?
Trafos.
That could work. Cool, we named it.
Good job, team.
Hooray! I'm gonna change the spelling a little bit so it's not super obvious immediately. Because we might actually cut some of that conversation out. But yeah, people begin to repopulate a world that they ended up calling Trafos. So how this game works, this game is played in 4 cycles, and each cycle is separated by a gap in time. So we'll be rolling a 6-sided die, and that'll determine how much time there is in the gap between the different cycles that we do. So if we get a 1, it's 1 day, 2 is weeks, 3 is years, 4 is decades, 5 is centuries, 6 is millennia. If the collective group feels that the given timeline doesn't fit the story that we're trying to tell, we can re-roll.
Nice. Cool system.
So, establishing the pace, I have a stack of face cards. And we're going to go through 1 card at a time and answer the questions associated with the card detailed below. They may read the questions first or to pick between the cards at random. We'll just kind of go through the stack. But starting with... Alright, so first off is King of Spades. If there are multiple people who live here, what are they divided on? What are the points of contention that are fought over? We're starting as people are beginning to leave their hiding places and return to the continent.
Well, I'd say this one's fairly obvious, is that they're going to be fighting over resources, spaces that have clean water and good farming locations. Just places that are resource rich is what's going to be points of contention.
That makes sense. And my turn. Jack of Diamonds. What is this place named or called? Who named it and for what reason? So, it's called Trafos, and I'm thinking the name came from as the first group of people left, because it might have ended up where the vast majority of all living people were hiding in one place together. Just because, safety in numbers, and just as they were fleeing, they gathered together, and those who survived ended up being there. And one of the first writings, either written on a stone or on a wall of a building that survived, was Trafos. They didn't know what it meant, or maybe it translated in one of their languages to hope or rebirth. So I figured that was as good a name as any, and it spread. Queen of Spades. What was the greatest tragedy in this place's past? How is it remembered?
So the greatest tragedy, I think, ties into the whole premise of the podcast, the war between the gods. No one quite knows how it started or when the inciting incident is, but it destroyed the world and reshaped it, and now it's remembered through songs and tales about how these gods that were responsible for the creation and the major sects of life are no longer here, but their memory is carried on in the gods that do remain and the people that are still here and sing their tales.
Yeah, and I will say part of the thing is through the gods is those major gods who are a god, even their names are not remembered. They effectively no longer exist. Because that's an important thing. Queen of Diamonds. What is valued in this place? And what is known to have an excess?
Does this need to be something physical, or can it be sort of, I guess, existential or community-based?
It could be either. Because also keep in mind this is as people... Well, it's not quite an exodus, it's the opposite of that. They are returning.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like maybe safety is valued and there's a lot of uncertainty.
Yeah, because I'm like, my brain's going to the same place as the first answer, which is not interesting. Trust in your community is highly valued because there is an excess of people who are sort of out for themselves because the resources are something that's a point of contention.
That makes sense. It's also these communities that are a mix of people that hadn't had any interaction with other communities for generations. Alright. Jack of Spades. What are the threats to this place? Are these threats to the materiality of the place or the people that live in it? I'll say a threat they had to deal with early on was wildlife and creatures and monsters. These creatures that have lived and hunted. I'm going to use humanity in the vaguest term possible, because yes, these are not all humans that we're talking about. There's just not a better word in the English language that I can think of that fits, so I'm using that word broadly. But one of the biggest threats is the nature and wildlife that has just been changed so much during the war, and trying to find a way to survive and not get eaten, and figuring out which of these plants you can actually eat and which ones will probably kill you. Okay. Queen of Hearts. Who or what person, landmark, society has been in this place the longest, and how did they come to be here?
I think one of the first settlements, it's in the heart of the continent. Everybody just refers to it as the Old Fort, just because it's been there so long and fortified. But it's true, the name that's put on maps and everything that everyone knows it by would be Damswell, because it's built on several dams, so it almost has like this moat-like trench surrounding it and everything that's defensible. Yeah. And I think that's been there the longest, and it's important because it was one of the first cities, this collective group of humanity or humanoids, whatever you want to use, ended up putting together to keep themselves safe from everything, and huzzah, it's now a shining beacon.
Did they ride out the war there?
I think underground, yes, and then once they started to peek their heads back up and just started building around the tunnels.
Oh, I like that. That's cool. We're going there. We are absolutely going there at some point.
Let's not. It's a silly place.
Alright, King of Diamonds. Who or what is in power here? A ruler, apex predator, laws that govern society, the weather.
And now, the weather. Anyway.
That's where my brain went to!
Yeah. I think right now, what's in power, and not to say that there haven't been, people who have tried to grasp power, but I think a lot of the time what's in power is just the forces of nature and the weather, partially. There's bad weather, it could potentially make people sick, and then your settlement could be decimated. If there's like a drought, that could hurt you. If there are, monsters in the area. So at this period of time, really what's in power is the forces of nature.
That makes sense. So, Jack of Hearts. So, who lives here? Or describe the flora and fauna. What is a landscape like? What animals and plants call it home? I'll say it's a world that, yes, it was reshaped by the gods, but for probably the past 100 years, until people started moving out of their hiding spots and trying to create settlements and spread out and rediscover/reclaim their homes, nature's just gone wild. So there are wild plants everywhere, potentially deadly ones mixing with ones that are helpful, things that may have been close to the point of going extinct before that war started are now flourishing. And there are also animals, both normal and magical, that have not had to fear being hunted. And so who knows what you may find out in those woods. King of Clubs. If there are any inhabitants, what are the visions for the future that they hold? Is it long-term or short-term?
I think we've said this is, about a couple 100 years? We haven't decided. But I think it's long enough to where they're starting to come back and everything. So I think there's still, everybody's still, while settlements are growing, it's still a lot of wild land. So it's a lot of short-term, okay, we need to fortify these defenses, make it through the winter, build houses, keep our, crops going, and things like that. So there's not a lot of long-term in the outer settlements, but in things like Damswell, there's schools that are dedicated to learning and studying the history and things like that. So the further in where it's more civilized, people definitely have long-term, but for the outer, more wilderness, it's very much we're focusing on day-to-day survival, and, that's sweet, y'all got your fancy learning and what have you, but we gotta go kill this bear that's trying to eat our crops.
Yeah. Hard to do long-term planning when you're also not entirely sure if one of the guys is gonna come and say, haha, you thought we were gone. Okay. King of Hearts. What stories are told in or about this place? Does it have legends or myths? Does it have religion?
Oh boy, does it ever.
Actually, at the moment, I don't think it really does have religion specifically.
Well, not the religion, but there are definitely stories, myths, and legends.
Yeah.
We've already said that. So there's not necessarily a religion. People mostly think that it seems... obviously people are looking over their shoulders and are they going to come back? But it seems as if the gods have all killed each other off. So formalized religion may not be much of a thing at the moment. However, there are tons of legends and myths and songs and poetry about the terrible war that reshaped the land, forced everyone out of their homelands and into hiding, the mass exodus of people into the corners of the continent, scraping by what they could, about the terror of these giant beings that started fighting with nary a care for the people who lived on the surface. So there are lots of grand bardic tales like that, but formalized religion isn't really a thing at the moment.
Yeah. It's hard to worship gods when you don't remember their names, but there might be some pockets of people who believe there may still be some gods who remain because they were able to get out and stay safe, so there might be some out there. And the last one is the Queen of Clubs. What was the greatest moment in this place's history? An innovation, a discovery, a revolution? I think it was just the moment when people finally realized that the war was over and they were able to go out into the world slowly but surely, and they were able to find ways to survive. And maybe they started finding small pieces of what once was before. But there was so much lost. And now we've gotten to the main gameplay. Now that we have our general world as people are getting out and living in the world again. So, gonna be drawing a card from the numerical pile. Each type of card is associated with a set of questions, and we're gonna answer in order. And we keep going. We can do a focused situation instead, which if you go in the book, there are options for focused situations if we want to skip and do those too. But anytime a 10 is drawn, that cycle ends and we are moved forward. After the cycle, time advances, you roll it. So starting with, got a 2 of diamonds. Name a monument, marker, statue, or other physicalized memory that exists in this space, and what does it mark? So we already have Damswell, but maybe there is a statue somewhere? Or does anyone have ideas?
What if it's not a statue? Because, at the very beginning, there wasn't a lot of artisans who specialized in it, but almost like the Viking runestones, where it's like the tableau, and it has like a depiction of maybe like the last scene of the battle, crudely scratched into it.
Yeah.
What about a landscape that is obviously not natural, that marks maybe what is potentially the final battle?
Just a spot, this place where everything is just worn smooth and black. And then my brain immediately, it's just this big, flat, black circle of glass. My brain is infected with Taz. I make no apologies.
What if it's not black glass, but each section is has these different, almost mica-like veins of iridescent colors that, depending on the time of day, seem to shimmer into something else? It's clearly infused with some sort of divine energy, but no one's been able to break through it.
Oh, that's cool. I like that. I was thinking either that or maybe just a big crater.
Why not a crater of glass with all the things we said?
Yes. Those gods are gone, but their energy's still there.
A crater of black glass shot through with divine energy.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's cool.
It's up in a mountain of all places, almost at the top of a mountain.
Hi, this game is really fun already.
Yeah. Sorry, I just had an idea of why to do that. Moving on. Okay, so the next one, 6 is... we've already talked about the most horrible thing. Well, I guess if we're still doing a circle... Yeah, if we're still doing a circle, I think technically this one will be mine. Because the first question is, what is the most horrible thing in or about our place? Maybe for some people, it's just how open everything is. Everything is so open. These people have been hiding in caves for a while, so it just feels open and empty.
Lots of agoraphobia.
Probably. That goes away over the generations.
Yeah, but that's interesting.
Also, where do you hide?
Mm.
Probably a lot of people staying in the forest or near tree, things like that. Ooh, this one's actually fun. For Fennec, what do people listen to and perform here? What is considered the folk art? So what does art look like?
I think art, if I'm basing this right in my head right now, I would say it's fairly early Byzantine Empire-esque. That blocky, person, but there's still kind of defining features that make them look a little more human than, some of the early monk paintings and what have you. If you ever want a fun time, look up monk drawings, because they're in manuscripts, they're wild. As a history fun fact.
Yeah. I also feel like it might be a mixture of working with stone, but also people experimenting into other materials, because there's all this material that's open. So
Yeah,
figuring out paint and working with wood, and we start getting some of our first wooden like fleets and
yeah.
things like that.
I definitely think they have paint, but like learning how to adapt it to like canvas or fabric more, because most of the art originally was just cave drawings, and you know, you need a certain type of paint for that, and that doesn't work for your lighter materials. There's definitely a lot of like folk music. I want to say it takes, you know, each ancestry has their own, what's the word I'm looking for? Like their own set style that could correlate to something that we know here in real life. But most of the time, if you're in a big city like Damswall, it tends to be like this fusion sort of blending, kind of like, I'm trying to think of one band that was really cool. But like, you know, taking things like a sitar from India and mixing it with, you know, traditional Scottish bagpipes kind of sounding stuff. So it's a lot of fusion because people are living together and have lived together for so long, they had to find ways to make their cultures adapt to each other, not have culture wars when stuck underground and hiding from big battles.
I feel like that kind of happened everywhere, because sometimes communities just ended up getting shoved together. So, I mean, there might have been some awkward tension between communities, but I feel like with what this world has been through, racism may not be a thing.
Hell yeah.
Because I just don't particularly want to. Just, nah. We might have a problem with that particular town over there, but it has nothing to do with the racist people. It's just some of their kids won't stop stealing our stuff.
No, it's the fact they put cheese on their noodles. Who puts cheese on their noodles and then spicy sauce? Who does that? Uncultured. Which, side note, cheesy spicy noodles with a fried egg with some Trader Joe's everything bagel seasoning. You're welcome, audience.
I also feel like oral history is big in this world. Oral history and music is big.
Oh yeah, that's how they learned what became before with the gods and everything.
Yeah. So for 9s, what do people eat and drink?
Actually, I'm gonna tell a story.
Okay. So with Tell a Story, the player adopts a storytelling character in-game, describe them, who are they, what's their story, and other players may enter the scene as listeners who can interrupt or ask questions as we tell the story. So, go forth and tell us the story.
This character is Haldir. Haldir is a bard. They're an elven bard who sort of travels around to different communities, especially during this time of year, which is the returning ceremony. So they have long, dark hair and dark eyes, and they carry a harp that they never actually seem to play except to just accentuate things. They're mostly an oral storyteller. They are in the town square of this particular area, and they have gathered a small crowd and are telling a story. And they go, "Listen, one and all, to the story of our brave adventurers who told us we could return to our homes. There was Kagrik, the dwarven, the strong."
Did they have a beard?
Yes, child, they were a dwarf. They had a beard.
Why do dwarves have beards?
You would have to ask a dwarf, my dear.
Did it have shiny things in it?
That was never recorded, but I would assume so.
Cool. I want to have a beard one day.
Me too.
Make sure you eat your vegetables then.
Aww.
There was Bretia the Kind, a healer and wise woman.
Right, why a wise woman? Like, Shouldn't it be a wise person? Just saying.
That is true, but she was very often recorded as a woman. Exclusively recorded as a woman.
Right, that makes sense. Carry on.
Pefo the Jolly.
Were they a gnome? Gnomes are always jolly in stories.
We get it, Craig. You're depressed.
Quiet down. Now, these three characters were unique in that they had grand plans to go adventuring through the open wilds. Many called them mad for such a feat, for the wilds are dangerous and filled with monsters. But they were determined, these three, and so they left the safety of their cave homes and journeyed out into the forbidden, dangerous wastelands.
What's forbidden mean?
It means you can't go there, my dear,
Why?
because it's not safe. Now, please.
Such a patient Bard. Probably just so used to this.
Yeah. What they found were not the horrible wars and uncaring gods of old that they were always told inhabited these lands. Instead, they found abundant wildlife, beautiful valleys, and clear crystal streams. Wildlife aplenty that, so unafraid of them, came up to greet them as they walked through the world. That is not to say that there were not dangers in this world, because there were. Monsters also inhabited it, things that may once have been wildlife, but so horribly altered by the war that they no longer resembled that which they had once been.
You mean like that deer that isn't really a deer anymore that keeps stalking outside of my house?
You should definitely get the Bard on that.
It just stares at me. It doesn't really do anything. Just creepy.
It could be infected, though, and we wouldn't want to spread that infection. Now, please, my story.
Sorry.
Now, where was I? Oh, yes, animals. Now, when they saw all of this abundance, the three travelers decided to return to their homes and spread word of what they had found. The elders, so entrenched in their ways, refused at every turn to listen to these brave, daring adventurers. But the younger generations were tired of living in caves. They did not understand why they could not leave, why they could not go and spread, why they had to be cramped together. So many of the younger generations, who not quite so entrenched in their ideas, followed our adventurers out into the wilds, out to other settlements, other places of hiding, and they gained more and more. And then contention grew, as it always does when you have a large group. And they split, and split again, and settled all over our vast world of Triforce. And that is why we, at this time of year, celebrate the returning.
Whoa!
Yeah.
That was awesome!
I want to be an adventurer.
When you're older.
Maybe one day. Again, eat your vegetables.
Vegetables are gross.
I don't like carrots.
Well, it is a shame. And then you can never grow a beard, and you can never be an adventurer.
Says you.
Yes, because I am far older than you.
Does mean you know everything?
Yes, it does.
Mom just hastily grabs the kid. Sorry, he's been a little... Sorry. Dragging him away. Mom!
Evolution! Down with the vegetable wazi!
I hope someone else was paying attention to those names, because I have now forgotten them.
Okay, so I got an 8. I like this. The news's dramatic intentions are high. What is the news and how is the reaction physicalized in this space? News is spread that near one of the towns that is starting to build up, they found what they think might have once been a temple to one of the gods. There is no more name, no records. It is just an empty building. But I think it scares some people because for those who haven't seen the war in so long, they question whether the gods are real. But if their temples are here, could some of them still be here? Or maybe there are some gods who stayed out of the war and survived. Because I feel like there are still some small populations who, even if they don't remember, have lost the name of the god through time, still worship some of the smaller deities that help save their people. But they found a building, so there might be more out there, and some of them, they might still have information left. So 5. Finnick, that is yours. Have you found the document?
Okay, so what are the stars like in our place? The sky, the weather? I want to say, depending on the season, the stars, much like Earth, change and rotate, but it's different. Instead of them always being the same and you're just shifting and seeing different parts of the constellations and everything each season, it's almost like the stars get completely wiped away and new ones get put in. And no one knows why, but, it could be leftover from a battle between two sky deities, and it's their essence still trying to repopulate the sky and make it how it was supposed to be, and it never quite stays the same. Makes sea travel interesting.
Yeah, they had to figure out other things. I think there's some people who believe that without the gods, the stars just don't know where to go.
I like that too. The sky is almost... It's always either like this deep indigo color, and like at night it will lighten a little bit when the suns are setting, and the moon comes up and it goes black, but most of the time it's just always indigo unless it's like storming and then nobody can see anything.
That's kind of cool. I like that.
And then the weather, lots of weather. Freaky weather even, because there's no weather deities to control it anymore.
Yeah.
The weather is all songs. Once again, this game is making me think of Night Vale.
Oh, that's fair. But yeah, no, so it's not uncommon for there to be random tornadoes every now and again, or hurricanes, or a deluge, or snowstorms. Because the world's still figuring out what it's doing.
Yeah, this is like, all gods are either dead or long dormant. Not that anyone knows about the long dormant thing, they're just like, they're gone.
Honey, did you forget to set the snow timer? Go away, I'm taking a nap.
Why is there a blizzard? It was 30 degrees. It was like 80 degrees yesterday.
Oh, that's just Texas.
You're not wrong, I'm discovering.
Oh, that's so true. Yeah, no, it's...
No, that's just living in Texas, doll.
Okay, so we are 2, 3. This is our second 3, so... What do people argue about for fun, Casey?
Oh, dear.
Manchester versus Liverpool. I almost wonder if it's like, what do you think they used to call the god of weather?
Of course, my brain immediately goes to who argues for fun, but I do that sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, well, what do people, whether at the bar, in the square, or other social spaces, what do people debate?
Gosh. I mean, obviously there's the local gossip, but sort of the big things people sort of talk about are, after the news of the old temple that has been found, they argue if the gods still exist. Some people argue if they should not have sort of an escape plan for if the gods wake up and resume their grudges. Others argue that they're long gone and such things are unnecessary. A building is just a building. There's no deeper meaning. The building just survived. That happens sometimes.
Yeah. Makes sense. Someone leaves our place. Who are they and where are they going? What do they take with them and what do they leave behind? I think maybe there's someone who their family maintained some, at least small semblance of faith. They've long since forgotten the name of the god. They try and keep the practices because they believe this god's the reason that some of them survived. They don't remember what they were the god of or anything. And then there's just one day where they wake up and they feel this, they describe as they feel like they're being called to go do something. Like they keep having dreams about this place and it's driving them nuts. So they don't have any particularly strong ties, so they just, one day, they just pack up and leave, and it's a few days before anyone notices. They just left in search of something, and some people hope they found it, but no one knows what they were looking for or why. And we've got a 5. What secrets are kept in this place?
I think we kind of covered that with the dormant thing, so I figured we'll skip and do a force scene or situation. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, a focused scene.
A focus scene, yeah.
Yeah, so tell a story through a party, discover something, see an omen. Leaving the frame doesn't really fit because we are using this for like a continent.
Let's see an omen. So I feel like it was probably one of the more recent ones, like when the people first started coming out of the tunnels around like Damswell and other places. But I think for Damswell especially, there was a young person, no one quite remembers their name or what they were. Everybody believes they were a tiefling, but it's been lost to recorded history, so much of it's oral and no one has really any truth. But they had this dream where they saw a city resting in a bowl upon the water, and, you know, nothing could seem to penetrate the bowl or anything. And so they went to their group of friends and told them about it, and they all took it as a sign to get out from under the ground and, you know, start to build this city surrounded by moats and these dams to protect it and make a place for people to live in safety.
I like that. Okay, so the next one is 7. What is the most beautiful thing in or about our place?
The determined resilience of its people.
I like that.
Yes, good.
Also, since this is taking a bit, we might just do 2 rounds. Sort of like fill in and then we'll skip ahead kind of things. We've gone through several cards. We still haven't gotten to a 10.
We haven't gotten to a 10 yet.
Oh, I was gonna laugh if my next card was a 10. It wasn't. 8. Someone or a group of people comes to our place. I'm just gonna skip ahead to the 4th one because I like this one. The future feels unsure, and the talks of our place has turned to preparations. What preparations are being taken and for what? So as the world is growing and as people are starting to uncover bits and pieces of what once was, they begin to understand the amount of destruction that happened. The fact that they were so far removed and they know nothing of what came before. So I think at some point there is a more concerted effort to make written records and make sure they are very carefully preserved. Making sure that there are signs that we were once here, here's what we've done and what we've learned. So even if something does happen again as time goes on and people realize that, you know, maybe the gods are gone, or at least the ones that nearly destroyed everything, they can rest knowing that even if something bad does happen, we're leaving something behind for those who come after us. Oh hey, we got an ace. We haven't had any of those yet. what are the plants like? We've kind of already talked about.
Yeah.
Let's just. And do we want to skip or do you want to do a focused scene? Do we want to try a different one?
Can do another focus scene, it's fine.
Yeah.
Let's do throw a party. So the player describes a situation of a party, festival, birthday ball, the spring flowers all in bloom, and each player picks or invents a character that attends. Role player narrate these characters, chatting idly, dancing, or having cake, or merrily existing in the splendor. Topics of the larger story and situation may come up, but they do not act on the big things in a tangible way. They're just a topic of gossip. So, I feel like while each town has their own set of unique celebrations, there are just some that are universal, and I think one of them is the Exodus Day, where everybody celebrates the day that everybody started coming out of the ground, and there's this big, like, festival and how to do. The local schools have the children's kind of do, like, those history plays where they, reenact, you know, the scene of the adventurers leaving and finding all this stuff. And, you know, there's the little kid that's a tree, like, or the not deer, like, I am a new creation. Behold me and fear. Sort of a thing, but really badly.
Behold me and deer.
Gosh. And, you know, there's, like, different, you know, vendors will sell their wares and, like, different shirts. Once they finally discover how to do screen pressing, somebody, you know, makes the shirts like, I went to the Exodus festival and all I got was this lousy shirt or tunic type of a thing. The food there isn't like a lot of made foods. It's more like foraged or hunted foods all put together. Because, you know, when first coming out, everybody was trying to figure things out. So it's a lot of berries and root vegetables and things like that that can easily be prepared and eaten. Or like wild meat that can be cooked. And, you know, there's always music and dancing and people sneaking off into corners to do things that people do. Drinking contests, things like that.
What if this is a thing where, like, it's not just within the town, but since a lot of towns are near each other, it's something where maybe, like, they either all congregate together somewhere, or, like, people, like, go or travel between towns, but it's, like, the communities blend together almost.
I like that.
Maybe some of the conversations go around growth and expansion, sharing information on where they found areas for different resources, things that we was sharing information, news from other towns, because, you know, still developing methods of communication and better ways to do it, knowledge of magic.
True.
Because, I mean, we all survived that war by staying together and helping each other, so...
Backstory.
Yeah, just keep working together for the better. I mean, not gonna give away all the good juicy secrets, but, you know, we've had this illness going around here so you can find some stuff to deal with it kind of things. And oh hey, we're starting a school, or we found these records.
Perhaps a rumor floating around that someone has moved into the old temple building.
Yeah.
Yeah. More temples are being discovered, and some of them do still have writings in them.
But no one can read them.
Either no one can read them, or, like, what they can read, they realize this wasn't a major god. This is just, like...
This was a flower god.
Yeah, like a local god, or, like, just things like that. And, like, well, they may not exist anymore, but it's still... People are curious. It's not often you find records. Okay, so on a 3, which I think we're back to Casey. Yeah, we're back to Casey.
Oh boy, okay.
A new style, fad, or devotion sweeps our place. What is it and who cares about it?
Those damn youths and their fast cars.
Okay.
Does somebody start a cult?
We're here for the cult stuff.
You're surprised, but I was almost gonna go down there. It was that people have started being more drawn to the old temples.
Okay.
Some people think that it's just that these are buildings that are basically empty. Some people think it is just something that's sort of
Curiosity.
like a curiosity, like urban exploring.
Yeah.
And some people think that the gods are once again awakening and are starting to get scared.
That's fair. There's still a lot that people don't know about the gods. Another ace. Sometimes change is so slow that the world shifts unnoticed. What is the groundswell that has been taking place so quietly? Also, like, a slow shift is around the time that, like, people are starting to be more drawn towards the gods. There have been occasional moments where, like, there would be a ground tremor or just something small, and people would discover, like, these tunnels underground, buildings that were buried that have information. As the people start looking into it, it's like something in the earth is starting to uncover what knowledge remains of some of the smaller gods. Like smaller nature gods, or like ones tied to specific phenomenon and other things, like little gods. None of the major gods. No god of the earth, god of the sky, no thunder gods. Like, one of them might be the god of the scent of dust after rain. And it does still scare people, but I think some people might be more curious as to, like, how did these survive when everything else was destroyed? Because that's a 3. A bad decision leaves marks on the land. What was this decision and what traces does it leave?
I feel it's a cop-out, but we said the world is scarred by the fight with the gods?
What if someone tried to become a god and they do it wrong?
Yeah, I was thinking something like that. Like, in the battle happening, one of the corruption or evil gods the god of corruption and decay, one of their followers tried to ascend into divinity to join them and aid in the fight. However, the ritual went wrong. No one knows how it went wrong. No one knows the ritual. But the grove they were doing in has become this blighted land where all the trees are this marble white ash and look like they're crumbling and decaying but are still there. And anything that goes in slowly over time starts to rot, almost like a leprosy, where if you stay in too long, you start to get, holes in your skin and exposed bits underneath coming out to where only the bones remain, and then fungi starts growing out of the bones. That's this, like, dark, blighted, green color. Sorry, I realized that was gross and I should have put a trigger warning.
So, I like that. But what if instead of, like, a follower of the god doing that during the battle, what if it's after the sort of charismatic cult leader, like, finds something and realizes, like, I can prove to them that I am worthy of becoming the god this world needs, and it goes wrong and just blights the land. And that leader's followers, you can still hear them crying out in the woods. Drawing others towards them occasionally, but you never go in there, because if you go in there, you'll never come out. I like that it's terrible. Ha! We got a 10!
Woo! Woo!
Finally!
Finally. I kind of want to go through a couple of these, not gonna lie.
Do we just want to pick, like, a couple that sound really good and call it good?
We can each do a 10. And then we can come back another day and introduce Springhelm. We don't specifically have to use this game unless, like, we all want to, like, pick questions from here that we want to use. or use these as inspiration to build Springhelm a little bit. So listeners, if you want to explore more of this game and build a very nice, robust world, you should check out The Ground itself, because it is a lovely game.
It is. It's fun, it's collaborative, it's world building.
It's got action, it's got drama, it's got the romance, it's got a leading man, a leading lady.
It's got cards.
It's got cards!
Or we can establish and fill in some facts like, as time progresses, people do start regaining faith in the minor gods, the gods that still exist.
That was kind of what I was thinking, so...
And this is after multiple generations. It's like people have learned more and they've done small things in following the practices of this god and these gods, and nothing bad happened, and people start to realize that whatever gods caused this war are gone. And this is like generations later, so people never forget what happened, but the gods who decided to go to war to hell with with the people who worshipped them and depended on them are gone. Even their names have been erased. But the world continues.
I'm gonna say there was a great victory that enables the inhabitants of our world to build towards the new future. What is this future they wish for, and how will they set to work for it? So the great victory is that a text was discovered saying that was sort of a document. It looked like a journal detailing the end times of the war. And not all of it is legible and not all of it is readable, but some of the things that are translatable include that most of the gods that have gone to war are dead, and as they die, their names are being forgotten, and that many of the minor gods are not dead, but they have lost so much power that they are asleep, suspended. And so some people decide that they wish to awaken, the people who follow these gods decided they wish to try and awaken some of these gods to see if can't balance that nature. And for now, they're working on it with sort of prayer and trying to be faithful, trying to offer what they can to see if that will rebuild their power to awaken them.
Maybe in the journal it also says that those minor gods use most of their power to hide the people as they fled, because what's the best way to kill a god than to kill their followers? And many of the people who fled were followers of the major gods, so the minor gods may be dormant because they gave up nearly everything to protect the people, because the people didn't ask for this.
Someone important, socially, politically, or emotionally in our place died. Who were they, and how are they killed? How are they remembered after? I think piggybacking off of Casey's, the first focus that we did, the bard, the one whose name I can't remember, who went around and telling the story and everything. One day, in a town that they were visiting to tell the story, they missed their appointment in the square to tell the story like they had been for the week. And everyone's a little concerned and kind of looks around, and, the innkeeper at the tavern goes in and finds them gone. Their harp is sitting in the corner, and their clothes are on the bed, but there's no body or anything. Just a note that's saying, I have to work on my next song. And it's one of the great mysteries. No one knows what happened to them or where they went. Everybody mourned, obviously, because they were a lore keeper in a sense who, brought the tales and the history of the world to so many people, and they just vanished one day. No trace, everything left behind except for a single note in their handwriting. No one knows where they went.
I wonder how many people for generations they inspired after them to continue on in their name.
Oh, so many. It's almost, I want to say one of the Bardic colleges in a major city. It's a rite of passage where you have to spend a month at least trying to track down some clue before you can officially graduate.
Yeah.
Have fun with that, Bree. Was he taken up by the gods? Did something else happen? Who knows?
We'll see. I'm gonna foreshadow a bit. It is a resting day in the knowledge of a secure future. What is taken as a given, and how do the inhabitants of our place spend a lazy day? Generations later, we still celebrate the day of the Exodus, the day of the returning. It is celebrated in all towns along with multiple other days, either that are celebrated wide or celebrated just within that area of the Great Discovery. And it's always a great day, and as more gods are rediscovered, their traditions are tied in with that day. And as our story begins, there have been more and more signs that those gods are starting to wake up, even if they aren't fully, as people are learning more and more. And our story is going to start on one of those days where there's only a bright future ahead. Thank you for listening to The Rise and Fall of Gods, and stay tuned to find out what happens next. If you don't want to wait, you can get early access to this and all of our other shows by supporting our Patreon at patreon.com/pseudonymsocial. The Rise and Fall of Gods is a Quest actual play DM'd and produced by Brianna Jean, featuring Casey Glover, Fennec Foxfire. Rise and Fall of Gods is part of Pseudonym Social, a creative podcast network changing reality one story at a time. If you enjoy our show, please leave us a review on your preferred podcasting platform and tell your friends about us. To find out more information about this and our other shows, check out our website at pseudonymsocial.com.